sis.
Kids, why don't you take little 7-Up?
Have you ever rewatched one of your favorite classic sitcoms from the 70s or 80s? Maybe Family Ties, Happy Days, or The Brady Bunch, and suddenly see there's a brand new character you don't recognize? A kid, usually. Cute, maybe, but something just feels wrong. They weren't part of the original lineup. They weren't in the opening credits you grew up with. They're there delivering one-liners like they've been here the whole time, but they just don't fit in. That, everyone, is a textbook case of Cousin Oliver syndrome, named after the mop-top little guy who showed up in the last season of The Brady Bunch and became a symbol for what are really a television show's final days. It happens when producers, panicking over slipping ratings, toss in a new kid character to freshen things up. The theory is simple: cute kids equals more viewers. In practice, it almost always backfires. Today, we're counting down some of the most infamous examples of Cousin Oliver syndrome from the golden age of sitcoms, the 1970s and 1980s. These characters marked the beginning of the end for these shows. This one's for the TV fans who stuck around through the awkward final seasons and lived to tell the tale. Number 10. Andy Keaton, Family Ties, 1985.
Got my favorite guy, got my favorite girl.
Alex, you're leaning on my hair.
Oh, sorry.
By the mid-1980s, Family Ties was riding high, thanks mostly to Michael J. Fox and his iconic role as Alex P. Keaton, the suit-wearing, Reagan-loving teenage conservative that no one saw coming. But as the show wore on, the writers knew their golden boy was destined for bigger things, which led to the reintroduction of Andy. He's just a baby played by twins Garrett and Tyler Merriman in season 3 and introduced because of Elise Keaton actress Meredith Baxter's real-life pregnancy. In season 5, however, that baby was suddenly a walking, talking 4-year-old toddler named Andy. Andy Keaton, played by Brian Bonsall from season 5 onwards, was clearly meant to be the new adorable centerpiece. He had the chubby cheeks, the giggle, and enough awe moments to make a laugh track blush. They even had Alex take him under his wing, trying to mold him into a mini Republican. It was cute, but also painfully obvious. The show's tone shifted. It started to lean heavily into look how cute the kid is territory, and while Bonsall did a fine job for his age, the movie reeked of panic. Michael J. Fox was winning Emmys and making Back to the Future. They needed someone, anyone, to pick up the slack. Andy Keaton was a placeholder, and fans knew it. Number 9. Sam McKinney, Diff'rent Strokes, 1984.
Chopped on it. I can't help it. Ghost fighting makes me hungry.
Diff'rent Strokes gave us one of the most iconic child stars of all time. Gary Coleman is Arnold Jackson. But by season 6, Gary was hitting puberty, and the show started to lose that cute kid magic that made it a hit in the first place. So what did the producers do? They added a new kid, Sam McKinney, the red-headed stepson of Mr. Drummond's new wife, played by Danny Cooksey. With his new southern twang and shaggy bowl cut, Sam was clearly meant to be the next Arnold. Adorable, precocious, and full of sassy one-liners. The problem was, there already was an Arnold, and audiences weren't ready to move on. Sam never quite clicked. He didn't have Gary Coleman's comic timing, and the character felt like he'd wandered in from a completely different show. Plus, the writing took a nosedive. Plots became increasingly ridiculous, and adding Sam just highlighted how far the series had drifted from its roots. By the time Diff'rent Strokes jumped networks to ABC in its final season, Sam was still around, but the magic was long gone. Number 8. Chrissy Seaver, Growing Pains, 1990.
Chrissy just got her first homework assignment.
That's wonderful. I remember mine. We had to describe our...
Ah yes, the old sitcom age jump. One season a baby in a crib, the next she's cracking jokes and pouring cereal. That's what happened with Chrissy Seaver. Originally born on the show in 1988, Chrissy was the youngest of the Seaver clan. But by the time season 6 rolled around, the writers hit the fast forward button and brought in Ashley Johnson as a suddenly 5-year-old Chrissy. She was wide-eyed, giggly, and armed with a script full of zingers. Now, Ashley Johnson would go on to have a great career. She voiced characters in video games and starred in Blind Spot. But at this point, Chrissy's arrival was just too much. Growing Pains was already stretched thin. Mike had matured. Carol was off at college. Ben, well, he kind of drifted to the background. Chrissy was meant to reboot the charm and bring back that early family vibe. But instead, it just felt like deja vu. The show ran for another season or two, but everyone could feel it. The sun was setting on Deceivers. Number 7. Luke Brower, Growing Pains, 1991.
Packing. I got the picture my lease was up, so I'm taking 2 pairs of socks and 1 pair of underwear. Mind if I keep the football?
Look, we've got to clear some.
Oh yes, Growing Pains get 2 entries. Why? Because they went full panic mode in the final season. With the Seaver household growing emptier and ratings dipping, the producer introduced Luke Brower, a homeless teen taken in by the family. He was played by a young Leonardo DiCaprio, and let's be honest, he was the best part of that season. Leo showed flashes of the superstar he'd become. He had presence, charisma, and even managed to hold his own against Alan Thicke's mega dad energy. But no amount of talent could mask the desperation behind the move. Luke wasn't a natural addition. He was a bolt-on character thrown in at the 11th hour. The show suddenly became more serious, tackling homelessness, broken homes, and social issues. Which was fine, but that's not why people tuned into Growing Pains. They wanted laughs, sibling squabbles, and life lessons that didn't involve child protective services. DiCaprio would, of course, go on to bigger and better things. The show, not so much. Number 6. 7. Married with Children, 1992.
Go bond with him!
I love you, you big.
Here's a character so reviled, so universally rejected, he was retconned out of existence. In the later seasons of 1987's Married with Children, the writers decided to throw a wild card into the mix. 7. The child of Peg's cousins Zemus and Ida Mae Wanker, who dropped 7 off at the Bundy house and disappeared. 7 was everything the Bundys were not. Sweet, innocent, and utterly out of place. He didn't fit the tone of the show at all. Married was proudly cynical, loud, and crude. It thrived on dysfunction. Having a wide-eyed little boy thrown into that lovably dysfunctional environment felt like putting a puppy in the middle of a monster truck show. It didn't help that actor Shane Sweet was adorable but inexperienced as an actor. Audiences hated it, critics mocked it, and after 12 short episodes, 7 just vanished. No explanation, no farewell. The writers never mentioned him again except for a brief Easter egg in a later episode where his face appears on a milk carton. 7 is what happens when producers try to fix something that isn't broken by using the worst possible tool, a generic sitcom kit. Number 5. Stephanie Mills, All in the Family, 1978.
Where's the chocolate cake? The refrigerator!
Get me a beer while you're out there, huh?
When Mike and Gloria moved out of the Bunker household, All in the Family lost its central dynamic. No more screaming matches between Archie and his liberal son-in-law, no more dingbat versus meathead tension. So, the writers introduced young Stephanie Mills, a distant niece who ends up living with Archie and Edith. Played by Danielle Brisbois, Stephanie was actually a decent addition. She had some depth, she could sing, and had some really sweet moments with Edith. But make no mistake, this was a reboot attempt, a retooling of the show into something less controversial and more family-friendly. The gritty social commentary of earlier seasons gave way to more sentimental storylines about parenting and generational bonding. The show's edge got sanded down. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't All in the Family anymore. Eventually, the series rebranded as Archie's Bunker Place, but the magic had faded. Stephanie wasn't the problem, but her arrival marked a clear shift in tone and a softening of what made the show groundbreaking. Number 4. Cousin Oliver, The Brady Bunch, 1974. This is a big one. the name that launched 1,000 think pieces, Cousin Oliver. In the final season of the Brady Bunch, ratings were in freefall. The original kids were growing up. Greg was more interested in girls than family dinners. Marcia had moved beyond teen angst into adult-sized eye rolls. So, the producers added Oliver, Carol's nephew, an upbeat 8-year-old with a pageboy haircut and a nose for trouble. Played by Robbie Rist, Oliver wasn't untalented, but the audience didn't want another kid. They were already invested in the Bradys. They didn't want to reboot the show's identity with 6 episodes to go. Cousin Oliver became the ultimate punchline in TV lore. He was more than some other character. He was a signal flare that marked quitting time for the show. He was the walking, talking sign that read, "This show is out of ideas." Critics dunked on him. Fans groaned. Even the cast didn't really seem to know what to do with him. The show was cancelled shortly after, and Oliver was never seen again. But his legacy remains. He may not have been the first of his kind, but he marked a point when audiences and critics really began to take notice. And the reception of every late edition and out-of-place sitcom kid after him owes itself to the cousin who gave the trope a name. Number 3. Roger Phillips, Happy Days, 1980.
You used that word on me before. I'm going to carry this little dictionary whenever we go out together, you know?
After Ron Howard left Happy Days, the series tried to fill the Richie-sized hole with Roger Phillips, Richie's cousin, played by Ted McGinley. Roger was wholesome, a bit square, and conveniently available to hang out with the Fonz. Problem was, he wasn't Richie, and viewers felt it. McGinley became such a symbol of late series decline that pop culture gave him a reputation as the Grim Reaper of sitcoms. He also popped up in the waning years of The Love Boat, Dynasty, and Married with Children. It's not that Roger was a bad character, he was fine, but he came too late. The show had already jumped the shark. Literally, in the infamous episode where Fonzie water skis over a shark, and Roger felt like a placeholder. The heart of the show was gone. Number 2. Kevin Cavanaugh, The Cavanaughs, 1988.
When does an Irish stew taste all-American? You want the truth?
Even if you have to lie.
The Cavanaughs was a mid-80s CBS comedy about a working-class Irish Catholic family in Boston, led by crusty but lovable grandfather played by Barnard Hughes. The show had a decent start in 1986, offering a blend of blue-collar charm and family dysfunction. But by the time season 2 rolled around, it was clear the series was struggling to stand out in a sea of bigger, louder sitcoms. Enter Kevin Cavanaugh, played by Danny Cooksey. That's right, the very same. Cooksey, already a poster child for Cousin Oliver syndrome after his run on Diff'rent Strokes as Sam, was brought into the Cavanaughs in what felt like a copy-paste move from his earlier gig. Same red hair, same mischievous smile, same script full of precocious zingers. The idea was obvious. If adding Cooksey to Diff'rent Strokes brought it a few more seasons, even if shakily, maybe lightning could strike twice. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Kevin felt shoehorned in for audiences and critics, and the chemistry with the rest of the cast was never quite there. The Cavanaughs limped to its end in 1989, mostly forgotten, but Kevin stands out as a classic symptom of late-stage sitcom syndrome. When in doubt, toss in a cute kid and pray for ratings. Number 1. Flip Phillips, Happy Days, 1981 to 82.
Wyatt?
Sure I do. You're Robert.
Roger!
Oh yes, Happy Days had not one but 2 Cousin Oliver characters. By the early 1980s, Happy Days, the iconic American sitcom celebrating 1950s nostalgia, was starting to lose its charm. Richie Cunningham and Ralph Malph were no longer the fresh-faced teens audiences first fell in love with, and even Fonzie was transitioning away from the high school setting that made the show so relatable. To try and recapture some of that youthful energy, the producers introduced Leopold Flip Phillips, played by Billy Warlock in season 9. Flip was the younger brother of Roger Phillips and quickly became Fonzie's new protege. His arrival was a classic example of Cousin Oliver syndrome, a late-season kid character inserted in a last-ditch attempt to revive the show's flagging ratings. Flip was given storylines centered around teen hangouts and basketball, aiming to inject some fresh, relatable energy. But instead of reinvigorating the series, his presence only highlighted how tired the show's original formula had become. Flip never quite fit into the established dynamic, and longtime fans viewed him as a forced addition. Despite these efforts, Happy Days ended just 2 seasons later in 1984. There you have it, 10 examples of how sitcoms tried to cling to life by adding new kids, teen heartthrobs, or long-lost relatives in hopes of recapturing that early magic. Sometimes it worked briefly, most of the time, it just made things awkward. Cousin Oliver syndrome is more than a trope. It's a warning, a sign that the writers are out of ideas. The cast is aging, the end is near, and yet, we still remember these characters. We roll our eyes, we laugh, and if we're being honest, we kind of love them in a weird nostalgic way. But who do you think is the worst example of Cousin Oliver syndrome? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button like you were a network producer trying to jam 7 into Married with Kids.